We built a simulator to see how quickly we can pass prop firm challenges. And in this video, I'm going to show you how adjusting your risk reward, your win rate, and your risk per trade can drastically change how quickly you pass or fail a prop firm challenge. So here at Prosperity Algo, we offer a prop firm bundle, which is a bespoke solution of EAs as well as a methodology and a course to help people pass prop firms and get consistent payouts. And as part of that, we have lots of members, and people are always asking me, how much should I risk per trade? How quickly should I expect to pass? What percentage of my accounts will I pass? And based on my own experience, as well as more anecdotal experiences, I've been giving ranges to date. Typically, we say risk around 1% per trade, seeing as we're only trading once per day, and we're using very high risk reward trades. And then in terms of speed of passing, as we use a rolling account approach, some accounts can pass in a week or two, whereas others might take a month or so, and perhaps even a bit longer depending on when exactly you start the account. And however, I have not been able to give a very, very concrete answer and run scenarios until today. And that's why I developed this tool where essentially we're using macros to run hundreds and hundreds of different permutations and possibilities. So we're able to statistically model how quickly we should pass when we change different inputs. And what I'm going to walk you guys through is this spreadsheet, which goes into detail in regards to how that is done. So essentially here, users can input their risk per trade in terms of R. So here we can say around 1%. The average win rate, this would be a 45% win rate here. So we're assuming like a relatively modest win rate bot, but with a higher risk reward. And I'm also purposefully beating up some of these numbers just to be indicative and show like it's better to be conservative than be overly optimistic. You could very well have a 60% win rate for certain bots or even have a higher risk reward. However, it's better to run scenarios with a more conservative statistics just to be able to better prepare yourself for more like mid-case scenario, not just best case scenario. So on that note, 45% win rate, we're saying we're getting an average risk reward of 2 Rs. And here we're modeling with a one-phase prop challenge. And essentially, in order to pass, we need to make 10%. And if we have a fail, we have -6. So here, like the 1, the 10, and the -6, these are all effectively percent-based. And it's just easier to put them in whole numbers as not percent for the rest of the calculations. And here we can see, if we move over to these columns, we're modeling out a run of different trades. Because the issue with any sort of like trading and challenge is that you can have different strings of winners and losers. So depending on when you start, because trades are not perfectly sequenced win-loss, 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 you can either pass or fail in a far faster way. And if you're trading a system with an edge, on average, you should make significantly more money and you should pass significantly more challenges than you fail. However, there still is that variance just based on the fact that how probabilities work. And depending on the order of trades and the permutation of trades, your results can be different week to week. And here we're attempting to model that. So in column E, you can see trade number. This is massively overkill. You don't need 200 trades to run this simulation. However, just to kind of bulletproof the model in case people put a super low win rate or a super high win rate, I wanted to show a bit more variation. Here is really the secret sauce. This is a win or loss. So effectively here, we're using a random number generator, which is pulling off our win rate. And specifically what it's doing is it's like the rand function in Excel will generate a number between 0 and 1. So essentially 0% to 100%. And what we're saying is if that number that it's generated is below our win rate, put a 1. If it's above that or equal to, put a 0. And what that will effectively do is it will generate these in a random way where on average 45% should be winners, because that's just how the function will work. But because we don't want to be at a perfect 50% heads or tails, we need to be able to have this less than function of the win rate to be able to reflect the fact that it's a skewed coin effectively. And now here in this column, we have our cumulative Rs. And it's a very simple calculation where depending on if this is a win, we will multiply it by our risk per trade as well as our risk reward. And if it's a loss, we'll simply take what our risk per trade is and make that negative. So for all intents and purposes, if this is a win, we'll do 1 times 2, so 2R, versus if it's a loss, we will do -1. And what we're also doing is this is cumulative. So we're adding up all the trades ahead of it. So essentially it's a rolling sum of the different trades. And the key factor here is in this column, the pass or fail column. And what this is doing is it's looking to column G and pretty much seeing, hey, whether or not we are passing or failing the challenge. And what it's saying specifically is if the cumulative R's are above 10 or equal to or above 10, this will be a passed challenge because we are looking at the pass percent. Whereas if it's less than or equal to the minus of the fail percent, that will be seen as a failed challenge. And what it will do specifically is here it will write pass or fail depending on which one is hit first. And here, like the latter one doesn't really matter. What matters is, do we fail or do we pass first? Because obviously if it keeps running the simulation, there will be other passes and fails, but that's pretty irrelevant. What we care about here, frankly, is whether or not the fail or the pass letter appears first. And in Excel, if you press F9, you can see that these numbers are being randomly regenerated every single time because it's just doing a different trial every single time. And as you can see here, sometimes we fail, sometimes we pass, pass, fail, and the speed can also vary significantly. So obviously, this is a pretty good simulation because we know what our win rate is, we know what our risk reward is, and we know at what threshold do we pass, at what threshold do we lose. So to get these numbers, you would simply run a back test in MT5 with the bot or the EA or the system of EAs which you're planning to use, and you would then pop them in and be able to run simulations accordingly. And now what is really, really key is we're going to run 100 different iterations of this model, and we're going to keep track of it. So to do that, we're going to use a macro, which was developed by myself and my friend Claude, to essentially be able to run 100 different iterations and keep track of the different trials. So let me show you how that would look. Essentially, all it's going to do is press F9 and keep track of what is happening here. So if we press run simulation, you guys can see that we're running tons and tons of different simulations. We can see, based on these statistics, we are going to be passing 84% of our challenges and failing 16% of them. And here we now go over to our summary tab where we can see every single trial and when exactly we passed. So here, the first one we passed on trade 37, but then we also passed challenge number 7 on trade 8. Then we also failed this one here on trade 18, just depending on the trial. And that corresponds to here, like how quickly did we pass and or fail the challenge. And what's really key and what's really interesting is it shows us both the pass rate as well as the average trades to pass. And specifically here it's showing us that if we're risking 1%, it's going to take us around 24 trades to pass. And if we say we're taking roughly 5 trades a week, this will be a bit less than 5 weeks. But what's now particularly key and what's particularly interesting is, let's say we now make this 2% risk per trade. And granted, like this is subject to the restrictions on leverage offered by different prop firms, so you'd always have to check like how much can I risk per trade. And now what we take here is if we press run simulation, what's going to happen? And now we can see that our pass rate dropped significantly to 69%. However, our average trades to pass is now 8. So this means that in a week and a half, we can technically pass. So clearly, this shows that if you can get enough leverage on a one-phase prop and you can maintain these statistics, that's potentially really interesting. And something else where people have sometimes come to me and they say, hey, I never want to lose a challenge. I only want to use 0.5% risk per trade. Let's do the math for that too. And taking this approach, it also works. And what you will see now is we're winning 99% of the time. However, it's taking us 39 or 57, trades to actually pass, right? So that's going to be around 11 weeks, so it's much slower. And this goes to show that, yes, you are failing far fewer, but you're also way slower. So you need to be very, very mindful of that because your total ROI will probably go down. Whereas in reality, it's probably smarter to fail more challenges but be faster because then you're able to get paid out significantly quicker. So this is really, I think, an absolute game changer for myself and for our community because we're able to run simulations using this tool. And like the magnitude of this should not be underestimated because you're able to approach challenges in a far more nuanced way. I'm also a big believer that you should really treat prop trading like a business. You shouldn't trade it like your personal money because if you fail half your challenges but you're much faster so your ROI is better, that should be the optimal decision-making process relative to being ultra conservative as you might be with your own hard-earned money. So this is really the takeaway from this. Super interesting. Enables us to make far more intelligent decisions, and I'm excited to use this with our client base. If you guys are interested in seeing this tool and testing it out, I highly encourage you to sign up for a trial of our prop firm bundle, play with this, and then you'll be able to see exactly how quickly you can pass prop firm challenges using our tool. So guys, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.